how the geek have inherited the earth. The Coloradoans getting a lot of PR here. It followed right on. I don't know if we did that on purpose or not, but it works. Josh is the editor of the Fort Collins Coloradoan, defier of newspaper stereotypes, closeted hardcore nerd, and native introvert. Welcome, Josh.
Hey, everybody. So the hardest thing about this presentation that I figured out so far, aside from having to stay in the white box in here, is as a topic. I wanted something that had the decorum of a newspaper editor, and then I decided, heck with it, let's just have fun. This is how the geek have inherited the earth. So before I get started, I have to let you know a secret. I'm a huge geek. Not like, I once watched all 3 Back to the Future movies in a row geek. For me, it's a little more intense. See, I don't just like Firefly, I was kind of in a documentary about it. I had a geek blog that attracted thousands of page views a day, and then about 2 years ago, I scrubbed it all off the internet entirely. Why is that? See, the world isn't quite ready to embrace a newspaper editor who owns piles of multi-sided dice. Newspapers' primary consumers grew up in a world where nerds are the subject of wedgies, not documentaries. So to help you see why geeks are enjoying their time in the sun, but it's really brief, I'm going to roll back the clock to early days. When confronted with a saber tooth, the evolutionary trait most of the time you needed was Ugg smash with rock and not Ugg make witty Office Space reference. So thus mankind continued to support a pack mentality. But even in the Middle Ages, nerdery was continuing to try and break out. You had Copernicus and Galileo, 2 very early nerds who fought against pack trends like heliocentrism. But more than that, the fancy of role-playing was alive and well. You had Commedia dell'arte in the 17th century, which was groups of 8 to 10 people playing specified roles, and if you can't make that connection. Still, for hundreds of years, geeks and nerds were marginalized. Even in the 60s, it wasn't the sort of thing that Don Draper would carry on about around the water cooler, and definitely wasn't a knowledge base in the club. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, what changed? What altered the course of human evolution? Well, it was largely this thing. They went from academic basements to boardrooms, and their neck-bearded programmers went with them. But technology gave us something more important. It gave us all a connection. See, for people with secret loves of Tolkien or Tiberius, they had to keep to themselves or maybe go to a science fiction convention annually if they were very lucky. But after the creation of Usenet and BBSs, things like that, you could realize you weren't the only person in the world who thought Battlestar Galactica 1980 was better than everything else. So by the time the late 70s and early 80s hit, nerd momentum was hard to stop. You had the moon landings, you had the arrival of home video games, you had Star Wars, which single-handedly reinvented the action blockbuster. And then in turn, the 1990s, the 2000s brought about sweeping change as the dot-com boom happened. Ideas, now and not your rock-smashing prowess, became the new currency. And it was a great time. It was okay to be quirky. It was even prized. We had finally achieved more than equality. It was victory. And lo, this prophetic monologue came to pass from 1984's Revenge of the Nerds. All our lives we've been laughed at and made to feel inferior. Why? Because we're smart? Because we look different? Well, we're not. We have news for the beautiful people. There's a lot more of us than there are of you. But you didn't think it would last forever, did you? If you don't think the decline of the geek is happening already, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Exhibit A, Owl. Yeah, okay, you know Owl, right? He's the denizen of the 100-acre wood. He's the intellectual confidant of Pooh. Well, just after 2003's Piglet's Big Movie, Owl was erased from existence. That's right. Until very recently, Owl's last major appearance was in 2003, and they removed him from every TV series since. And that's a canary in the coal mine for us, and here's why. All the creatures of the 100-acre wood represented pieces of ourselves. You had the lazy but well-meaning Pooh, the sullen Eeyore, nervous Piglet, vivacious Tigger, practical Rabbit, motherly Kangol, inquisitive Roo, and then intellectual Owl, all facets of our own humanity. Owl was silenced to make way for more child-friendly characters. So what did they do? They took they retconned a bigger brain into Rabbit. So the character meant to show us the dangers of nervousness and OCD, now also the same character meant to show us intellectualism. But before we take the pitchforks to Disney, we have to turn the camera back on ourselves. You see, in our desire to not only legitimize technology, get more people to use it, we made it easier and easier. Our nerd forebears pushed technology from command line to window to multi-touch, so to use technology, you didn't have to understand it anymore. Also complicating things, the rise of the hipster. See, this nerd offshoot's propensity to swarm an artifact of pop culture, not to oblivion and move on is having an unsustainable effect. At this rate, we'll be nostalgic for QR codes by next week. And to paraphrase Syndrome, when everyone is a quirky nerd, nobody is. When a normal person could put on trendy glasses and a Care Bears t-shirt and gain access to our most inner rights, have we really come that far? So, to wrap things up, in so many ways we've won. The nerds and geeks of the world have spent decades trying to bring others to their way of life. You had young visionaries like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. They set out not to just start a business, but to evangelize a technological lifestyle. But whether our coming future is more idiocracy or more Terminator, there's still a way to fight back. Don't just consume, create. Teach your children not just how to blog, but how to code. Teach them not just the concepts of Blade Runner and the Matrix, but the very concept of dystopia. Because what separates real nerds and geeks from the world isn't our knowledge, but our quest for knowledge. So if we can do that, the geeks will have truly inherited the earth. Just watch out for the rise of the machines.